This is a News Center 1 special report.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for this special report on the First Thunder fire burning to the southwest of Rapid City. The fire has dominated the thoughts and the conversations of most people in Rapid City since it started about 6 o'clock last night. We'll take a look at the forecast and its likely impact on the fire's behavior in a little while here. But first, city and county officials held a briefing earlier this afternoon to provide as much information as they could. Here's that briefing in its entirety.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. Obviously, a lot of us are paying close attention to the wildfire just outside of Rapid City, the First Thunder fire. First, I just want to say thank you to everybody working hard on the front lines. They've been working tirelessly since it started yesterday. I think a little after 6 p.m. it was called in, and folks have been out there working hard from various agencies at the state level, the county level, and the local level here in Rapid City. So I just first of all just want to thank everybody. Just know that there are people working around the clock tackling this this fire and its close proximity to structures and where people live. And of course, the city of Rapid City has us on alert. And just so you know, there has been great communication throughout to make sure that we know what's going on and that the resources are there to tackle this fire. We know that there are people that are just working through bitter heat, and that's the challenge with this, from what I'm told, is the dry air combined with the high heat really brings very little relief. And so it takes a ton of effort just to try to set up the defensive line to try to contain the fire. And obviously our folks are doing a great job working on that. The other thing is communication is so important. I was talking to somebody recently today, talked about in the absence of communication, other people will fill the void. And so we're here today to make sure you're not filling the void, but that you're filled with facts and that the facts will help you make good decisions. And here's the truth. The fire is serious. There's no reason to panic. There's no reason to freak out just yet, but there is reason to be prepared. And so right now we have an evacuation warning in several areas, and I believe we can talk about that here just momentarily. We know right now about 170 acres have been burned up and continues to grow. But in that evacuation warning, it's not an evacuation order just yet. So with the warning, that means to be prepared. Thankfully, we have a great city-county partnership with emergency management that has a lot of great resources on the Pennington County website. Go to penco.gov and you can find emergency management, all sorts of things. One thing I want to make sure I point out today, since I've told you this is serious, you need to make plans. What are the plans that you need to make? Well, one of them is just to identify the things you would need to take with you. So first of all, your people, your family members, the people that live in your household, make sure that they know what the plan is, know where to go, where to be. Also look after your pets. We have Dexter the dog here representing the pets. Thankfully, Central States Fair have stepped up. If you have livestock or large animals, you will be welcomed in an evacuation situation to use the Central States Fairgrounds. In addition, Black Hills Animal Hospital has offered services to domestic and small animals as well. Two, papers, your important paperwork, obviously Social Security cards, birth certificates, those sorts of things to make sure that you have those. Three, your personal needs, the things that you need to kind of get you through the day. Four, your prescriptions. Obviously many folks depend on prescriptions. You need to have that ready to go, put it in a bag. And five, your priceless items, obviously pictures, memorabilia, things like that. But the fact of the matter is, and we'll have Dustin Willett from Emergency Management come up here shortly, you have to have a plan, you got to be ready to go, and you have to know where to go. So if you have friends or family that are in this area of Southwest Rapid City and just outside there, reach out to them. If they need a place to stay, I hope that our community will welcome them with open arms, if it comes to that. But we will do everything in our power. We have great folks to make sure that we try to contain this as much as possible, but a lot of things, a lot of variables are out there. Wind, weather changes, all sorts of things can happen, and we know that the conditions are ripe for it to take a turn. So I don't want to give you false optimism, but I am an optimist. I am hopeful, and we'll continue to pray for the best. And I encourage the entire community to pray for the best in this situation, but also to plan in case it takes a bad turn. It's never a good idea to be caught by surprise. We know this is here, and there is time to make preparations and to plan and make sure you checked on your loved ones as well. From the City of Rapid City standpoint, we will do everything we can with our fire department and our police department, as well as our partnership here here with emergency management, which is a city-county partnership once again. I will tell you that Canyon Lake, the area is going to be blocked off for now. They're going to use that water to help, obviously bring water to the fire, so you're not allowed in the lake. We would also ask you, we know there's a lot of curiosity about this fire, to please stay away from where the professionals are. Let them do their work. We do not need a ton of traffic in and around while they're trying to do their work, because they're going to be worried about you when they got to worry about this fire too, and it creates all sorts of complications. And so for those of us who do not need to be there, let's not be there. Let those who are going to fight and confront this fire on the front lines do their job and have ease of access. So that's just a few things. I'll close it out after everybody's said and done, but I wanted to just take a moment and invite folks up here. So when you come up here, if you would introduce yourself and who you're with, so that the media and the public can know what your titles are and what you're doing, that'd be great. Dustin, I would like to start with you. Dustin Willett, he leads up our emergency management. I mean, he has done a tremendous job. His day job, this is what he thinks of all the time, are situations just like this. And if we execute the plans that he's put in place, we will have a much better rate of success. So Dustin, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Mayor. Dustin Willett, I'm the Director of Rapid City Pennington County Emergency Management. This community is no stranger to wildfire. This is not the first time we've been in this fight. This is not the first time we've seen this threat. And what that means, more than anything else, is we have built the relationships, the capabilities, the tools to address this threat. And it would be hard for me to stand here and plug one particular thing without stepping on everybody else's resources that they're bringing to the table. Almost everything I could talk about is going to be represented by the public safety partners that are here today, because we work so well together. From the federal level to the state level to the local level, the volunteer fire departments that were working hand in hand with the state yesterday when the fire broke out, all throughout today. It is incredible the level of coordination and cooperation that we see, especially in the wildland arena in our county and our city. So we're very, very grateful for that. From an emergency management perspective, again, this is a threat we know, this is a threat we face, this is a threat we've planned for and built capability for. So we have plans, and you're seeing some of those plans enacted right now. An evacuation warning area, as the mayor alluded to, is just that. It's a chance to prepare. Sometimes, if you're in a motor vehicle accident, you have milliseconds, and then the event happens. We actually have the luxury right now of knowing that there's a threat, and we actually have the luxury of being able to prepare a little bit. So as the mayor indicated, some of those items, and you can find checklists all over the internet. You can find checklists on our website as well. But we have time to prepare. You have time to gather those items. You have time to check in on your loved ones. You have time to get your pets, your animals together. So the evacuation warning is just that. It is a heads up. It is a call to action, not to evacuate, but to be prepared to evacuate. So you're seeing those plans in action. One question that we fielded is what happens if there are actual evacuation orders put in place? What happens if the incident command team that's running the fire says, hey, these people need to get out of this area? It's not just going to be a Facebook post. It's not just going to be an update on the Public Safety Hub. If we get to the point where evacuation orders are called for, we will leverage all of our alert and warning technology. So we have the integrated public alert and warning system from FEMA, the cell phone alerts, everything that we have to alert the public will be leveraged if there is an evacuation order. Now, those are very targeted alerts. We don't alert the whole city. We just alert the part of the city, the citizens that are directly affected. But we have those tools. We have that plan. We've prepared for that, and we're ready to enact that if the situation requires it. So I don't want to take up too much more time. We have plans. They're being well executed. We've got incredible partners, incredible public safety in this area, and my office stands ready to, again, make sure that we're updating the public through the Public Safety Hub. You can see the evacuation warning area on that. You can see the road closures as we put them on that. Any other closures and resources that come through, we try to update that Public Safety Hub to keep the public well informed. And rest assured that should things escalate, we're ready to step in with additional parts and processes of that plan and our alert and warning system. Thank you. Do you want to stand for questions right away or just go through? Absolutely. Should we just go in that way? So, all right.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Wood. I'm with the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, and today I would like to talk to you about the priorities from the Sheriff's Office when there is a fire, and that would be road closures and evacuations. So I'll start off with road closures just so you know the roads that we're currently working on. So it'd be Victoria Lake Road from Sheridan Lake Road to Taylor Ranch Road, Norseman Lane, Falling Rock Road, and Buzzard's Roost. So the reason why we have these roads blocked off is so that the fire people, firefighters, and all their assets can freely navigate those areas and take care of business of putting this fire out. So you'll not be able to travel those roads. So I will move on to evacuations. So if the evacuation order does come, so you're going to get all those notifications that were just spoken about, but you'll also get some knocks on the door from public safety people. So we have, we call this a door hanger, and we will end up putting this on your door or handing you this flyer. That is our goal, is to get to every residence that is in the evacuation vicinity. But we might not be able to get to every house, just depending on how fast the fire is moving and everything that's going on. So I would recommend you to go to penco.org Public Safety Hub to get the latest information for that. So something else that will happen if we get the evacuation order is that deputies or other law enforcement or public safety professionals will put a piece of yellow tape on your mailbox or an object close to your driveway or to your residence. And the reason why we'll do that is so that we don't keep going to the same residence again and again. We know we've been there. So I guess I would ask, if the evacuation order does come out, that you please comply and have your stuff ready to go and get yourself and your family out of your residence as soon as possible. So, standing for any questions, Mayor?
At the end, I'll set everybody.
Yes, sir.
There's some updates. Any questions? Jerome, you want to go next?
Jerome Harvey, Fire Administrator, Pennington County, South Dakota. Specifically concerning the fire and what's going on with it, our force multipliers of our volunteer firefighters first arriving on scene, along with the excellent communications we have with our dispatch center here, definitely is making the difference. The legacy investment that the taxpayers have put in to support this system is paying off. The fire did remain active last night, burned throughout the evening in drought-stressed vegetation, steep inaccessible terrain, and continue to burn active throughout the day. But we've made great progress. The firefighters on the ground and all of the resources that are in here from across the country have made great progress on the fire today, working towards containment of it. It is very visible. It's visible from a long distance, and that's supplemented, of course, by some of our media partners with some of their capabilities. So again, it's something to keep an eye on, but everybody is putting all hands to the pump and continuing to work on the fire itself. So we've made great progress throughout the day. Specifically concerning Western South Dakota and living here in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And again, Western South Dakota, you got to get used to the fire regime that we live with here. We live in an area that is a red zone, and you need to be prepared for that. Whether you're a lifetime resident or somebody who's moved into the area recently, you've got to get used to and be ready and be prepared, like the mayor is saying. These kind of events can happen on a year-round basis. There strictly is no longer a defined fire season. Fire season can occur here on a year-round basis. So you need to be prepared for yourself, protect yourself and your family. Again, great progress on the fire today. Our firefighters, our volunteers, along with our federal and state partners, our career personnel, will continue to work on the fire throughout the next several days and work towards containment of it. Thank you.
Got to lower the microphone just a tad bit. Thanks, Jerome. Fire Chief Jason Culberson, Rapid City Fire. Not much else can be said other than what our partners over here said, but just know that we are ready and ready to respond. Dustin's put together a great plan, and we are ready to be that and be there to assist them. We have some fantastic people on the fire already. Pennington County Volunteer Fire Departments, we have a unit out there. They're all in the fight. I can't say it enough. Please stay out of the area. It's very difficult for us to maneuver around there. It's very steep, very rugged area. So in order for us to get around, we need to take those roads, and everybody needs to stay out of there. I know it's awesome to go take a look at a fire, and it's something you haven't seen, but it is very important to stay away from those areas. As far as the threat to Rapid City, yes, it is in the county, outside of our jurisdiction, but understand we're in constant communication, obviously through Dustin and emergency management, but I've spoken with Jerome a couple times already, and I've been in contact with Rob Powell with the state of South Dakota. And I know that once the incident management team takes over, they'll be in constant communication with the city, relaying information. I know some frustration has been about the information flow. We're doing our best. It's difficult to get that information as it's evolving so quickly, but trust that those that needed to know, knew, and they were being informed as quick as they could. Please watch all of our social media pages. I know our public information officer's been putting it out. The state of South Dakota informed me to watch the Pennington County Sheriff's Office Facebook page for further updates and information. But you have some of the best, hardest working, brightest people out on this fire, and they are working hard and diligently and are going to work hard to make that go away. We're hopeful that the weather maintains. We thought there was going to be a little bit of a wind event this morning that didn't happen, so that's a positive. That always helps. The air assets on scene, I don't think I've seen this many in a long time show up to western South Dakota and get ahead. So just entrust in that, and that we have it, we're doing our best, and we're working hard to make that go away. Oh, and I'll go, do you want to talk, Scott? Sure. Okay. All right, I was going to take your 2 seconds.
Oh, go ahead. No.
Oh, all right, I was just going to throw it in there. You're right.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Scott Sitz. I'm the Assistant Chief for the Rapid City Police Department. And really, I can just echo what everyone else has already said. I just want to assure you we have the best equipment, the best staff addressing this issue that's possible. The Rapid City Police Department's involvement so far has been minimal. However, we are staffed and we are ready to be a force multiplier for the Sheriff's Office with evacuations, road closures, whatever is needed. We stand ready and willing to go and assist. Again, I would echo the message about following the barricades. Please don't cross the barricades. Those barricades are up for a reason. It's to allow personnel to move freely. Right now, the Rapid City Police Department is at Canyon Lake Park, and we ask that you don't go out on the water. Leave that free for the helicopter to get in there and get the water as necessary. But again, I just want to assure you the best staff possible is on the scene, and they're addressing it quickly.
Then we'll open it up to questions if you have some, but as you can tell, folks are working hard. They're working together. That's been the case this whole time. And, our point, again, today is to make sure you have the information and make sure that we don't just wait to give you the information, because we know that people are talking. And just so you know, it's on our mind. Excuse me. We have great folks working on things, and we were not caught by surprise. Instead, we activated a plan that existed already, and it's underway now. So with that, I will open up to any questions that media members or any of you in the audience may have. Yep, go ahead and use that microphone, because we have people watching online so they can hear your question. Sure. and whoever it's for, too.
Sure. Chris Dancy, News Center 1. Jerome, I know you've had a long day. Sorry to make you stand, but questions for you. First of all, I wonder if we could get a little more of an at 9 o'clock or so this morning, you provided a detailed outlook on where things are. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the containment lines to the north. You had mentioned that you were going to be working on containment lines to the south. Just sort of an update on where we are as of 3:15 this afternoon.
All the efforts, you know, dependent on our weather conditions. Chris, as you're familiar with the weather, and appreciate the support that we've been getting from your office as far as the weather. But everything that's been going on today is reinforce those containment lines and go as direct with the fire as possible. Anybody can look on any type of a modern map and see how steep and inaccessible some of this terrain is, and we have people actually working in that. I mentioned about the air assets that are in supporting that and reinforcing those lines. And as far as specifics, as far as where they're at and where they're going with it, at this point in time, I don't have that specific information, but the lines that we talked about, such as the Dark Canyon area up above Dark Canyon, has been reinforced, and the lines that are in the southwest part of the fire in anticipation of that wind shift. And then with the lessening of the winds, not having as quite as severe winds as we had this morning, did allow forces to go direct with the fire, which is always a positive.
Okay. And one other question. Chief Culberson mentioned the air assets that we've got, and several of you have talked about staying clear. I'm assuming it would be a bad idea for people to put drones up to try to see as well?
For God's sakes, people, do not put a drone up in a TFR on the fire like this. Tessa, I'm sorry, but don't put a drone up. You put a drone up and you'll ground all of our air assets. It's safety for the pilot, safety for the people that are in the air, and safety for people on the ground, and that will automatically ground those assets that are in here, those resources that are in here now, trying to help the people, trying to contain the fire and get it where we can control it. The minute a drone goes up, those things are going to the ground and will be grounded until the air can be cleared. So
Okay.
please don't get any wild ideas about trying to become a YouTube hero and put up a drone. That'll ground those assets.
All right. All right, thank you.
Jerome, coming in hot. That's a good message. I like that. Coming in hot. That's the name of your book. All right.
Yeah, Adrian Carbajal, Dakota Territory News. I guess for the Sheriff's Office, I was at the 11 o'clock meeting earlier. What I wanted to know was then they didn't have any location for people that if they were evacuated to go to. Has there been an update in the last couple hours to maybe see where they would be relocated to in case of an emergency?
Dustin, do you know?
Whoever, yeah, I'm sorry. There was earlier was a sheriff, so.
Dustin Willett again, Pennington County Emergency Management. So one of the first calls this morning was with one of our partner organizations, the American Red Cross. We partner with them for all of our, not all of our, but most of our sheltering and reception center needs. Spoke with Red Cross staff early this morning, and the first thing we would do if an evacuation order is actually generated is we establish what's called a reception center. It's not a full-blown shelter. It's a place for people to come and check in and gives us a good barometer on what the needs in the community might be for long-term sheltering, whether or not we need to stand up an actual shelter, whether or not we can get by with some hotel rooms. There's various ways, various models that we can employ to make sure that people have a roof over their head. But that conversation happened early this morning with our partners that are involved in that. Exactly which facility, the American Red Cross and my office have some agreements with facilities, a lot of faith-based facilities across the community. We're not going to impact the school system. The schools are there doing the job that they need to be doing. So more than likely we would use a faith-based institution, and determining exactly which one we would stand up for a reception center is going to depend on what areas may be required to be evacuated. So once we knew what that evacuation order was, part of that messaging would be where that reception center is and any follow-on sheltering that needs to occur. So can I tell you specifically what address that facility is going to be at? No. But is that being thought about and addressed and prepped and planned for? Absolutely. So should that eventuality come to pass, that answer will be provided when we message out to the public.
Perfect. And I don't know who would be able to answer this next question, but I was actually there earlier and saw some of the planes dropping off some water, and we saw a couple hikers in the area. What can you tell us about, we're trying to make sure people stay out of the area, but of course people are going to want to hike and enjoy the Black Hills. What would you tell any hikers at all? I mean, stay out of the area completely, because people are still trying to make their way in there.
Good afternoon again. So the message would be, if we see any hikers in the area, we would absolutely appreciate a phone call so we could contact them and get them out as soon as possible, because we don't want people in that area, and there's just a lot going on. And if you think you would want to hike into that area just to see what's going on, please do not do that. So no hikers in the fire zone, please.
Potential penalties or anything like that for people that are caught in the area?
We would take it on a case-by-case basis and see what all the circumstances are on that.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be the worst. And
That'd be the worst case scenario.
Yes. And then last question. Earlier, I believe we said it was 150 acres. Now it's spread to 170. Is that the accurate number? 170? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, the last update I got, unless there's a new one while we've been sitting here, was 170 acres. I think it's still zero containment, but I do believe they're working on that fire line, so I think that's going to be a big deal, how that goes. But any other questions? Well, I just want to reassure the community once again that we have great folks working on the front lines. We ask that you continue to support them, continue to pray for them, and continue to stay out of their way and let them do their jobs. We want them all to return safely at home. We know that the fire impacts a lot of folks, hurts our air quality. Obviously, it's a threat to structure and people and wildlife and this beautiful Black Hills we call home. This is part of the price we pay for living in such a beautiful place, is we might have to deal with situations like this, and we're very grateful, not just for the regional and state support, but it sounds like we've got support coming from all over the place, as we often do for other locations as well. That's the way we do things here in the United States often, is we go and help, and we are grateful for those coming to help us. So once again, I want to give a special thank you to the state of South Dakota for their help, Pennington County for all their tireless efforts, and of course the city of Rapid City, and I think the volunteer fire departments. This is a great reminder of how important that is, and why it's important for you, especially if you live out in the county or live in a rural area, to volunteer in your fire departments and be a part of helping things out. Their initial response was very important, and hearing that just as a reminder that yes, here in the city we have a fire department, but we live in a vast, beautiful area, and it takes people to help protect it. So thank you all for your tireless efforts, and thank you for your volunteering your time, and of course, risking yourselves on behalf of each and every one of us. So with that, God bless you all. We'll keep you posted if anything changes. You know the places to go, to people to talk to, but I wanted to make sure today that we got that information out. We are going to always monitor this. And just as a reminder, the areas of Rapid City that we're looking at for the city limits area, besides our neighbors, are in the southwest Rapid City. We're talking Countryside, Red Rocks area, High Point Ranch, potentially Chapel Valley, Carriage Hills, that sort of area. So just be mindful, pay attention, don't take it for granted. Have a go bag ready, have those plans ready. Make sure that you have a place to go and an evacuation route to get there. And make sure if you know somebody that lives in those areas, maybe it's somebody who's not tuned in to media or social media or anything like that, that you are reaching out to them and checking on them, make sure that they're aware of what's going on. We want to make sure that everybody's safe. But in addition to all of that, we'll have people down on the ground making sure they can make contact with everybody affected in this area. So, all right, thank you all very much.
So that was our council meeting from earlier this evening. Now we're sitting at about 9:26 or so. So how have things changed? We're going to take a look at the forecast. We're going to lay out what we got so far as pre-evacuation orders. Has anything changed with that? Any update on acreage? We're going to do all of that right now. Let's start with current conditions. Now, one thing I want you to notice, you look off towards the west here. This is from a Rapid City Tower cam. I had to pull this out because you zoom in on the fire, you can't see much. Now, part of that could be smoke that we have back there that's covering things up, but also it could mean things starting to die down a little bit. Weather conditions have been improving slowly as we've gone through the evening. Relative humidity slowly coming up, winds slowly coming down. Now, we are expecting a little bit more of a kick later on tonight, but we're going to talk about that. So let's roll forward here. So temperatures still on the warmer side. It's 81 degrees at 9:30 at night. That's pretty good. Clear skies, relative humidity still about 26%, northwesterly winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. The dew points, the thing that's really not helping us out, because as that dew point drops, so does the relative humidity. We need more moisture. We're just not going to see it, at least for the next couple of hours. We're going to see that a little bit later on going into tomorrow. So here's the basics we got going on so far. We're still hanging on to 170 acres, 0% containment. We got variable southwest and northwest winds. So it's been kind of deviating a little bit through the day today. We temporarily had some northeasterly winds. That's when we started noticing the smoke column was no longer laying flat. It was kind of just sitting around there earlier in the afternoon, and now we've started to see a little bit more of a push of some of that smoke getting into the valleys and up through 44 there. So you walk outside in West Rapid City and you're just hitting the face with this smoke smell, even though it may not be visible. So if you have sensitivity to air quality, no matter how long it takes for this fire to get knocked down, maybe it gets knocked down in the next 48 hours, that smoke may stick around for the next couple of days. So just those with air quality issues, keep that in mind. So we got this triangulated for the most part. We've been talking about this since yesterday. 3 miles west of Red Rocks, 3 miles southeast of Hysiga, 3 miles north of Rockerville. And we're expecting most of this to be contained south of 44 as of right now, and we're looking north of Rockerville. This area has basically been burning through valleys and a little bit through some ridges. This is difficult terrain to work with. This is not where you can pick up, a tender and just throw it up on the hill and spray some water on it and it's all done. You have to hike in there for the most part. You got to put people with back 40-pound packs, put them at the top of these hills and dig a trench. So that's what's been going on for the last 24 hours at the very least through large sections of this area. And as we roll forward here, we're going to notice here's the area pre-evacuation map. So this is provided by Pennington County Emergency Management. You can see Highway 44 up here to the north. You got Sheridan Lake Road down here to the south. What I'm going to do is actually move this out of the way. It's been very helpful, but now it needs to go somewhere else because now we're going to get a little bit more into this. So these are road closures. So you got road closures here and down towards Sheridan Lake Road. This is the southern portion of this pre-evacuation zone. So from Clarkson Road on Sheridan Lake Road down towards about Rockwood Road. That you have some logging trails a little bit down this way, but for the most part, Rockwood Road is going to be one of those first markers you see that you say, okay, I'm starting to get out of the pre-evacuation zone. If you are south of Sheridan Lake Road, you are not in pre-evacuation orders. If you are on the north side of Sheridan Lake Road, in between Clarkson Road and Rockwood Road, you are in pre-evacuation. You are in a pre-evacuation zone. The northern section here, this is Highway 44. This is coming up that big hill. That big hill as you're getting up out of the river valley and into the hills a little bit. You got Dark Canyon Road to start things off. That starts the pre-evacuation notice. That goes all the way to Falling Rock Road. Now, Falling Rock Road, that is closed as well. So not only is that the signature of where that pre-evacuation notice basically stops on Highway 44, but the road is also closed. So anywhere south of Highway 44, between Falling Rock Road, Dark Canyon Road, that is your area of pre-evacuation. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's not an active evacuation order. It's a call to action, but not to evacuate. That's what Dustin said earlier today, Pennington County Emergency Management, and he is right on the money on that. That was a great way of putting that. It's not an evacuation order. It's a call to action, making sure that medical documents, financial documents, making sure your pets have somewhere to go, making sure you have somewhere to go. You're important too. 7 days worth of stuff, clothes, personal needs. I heard someone said the 5 Ps, personal property, photographs, taking photographs of your belongings, of your place. God forbid something happened and you need evidence that you had this stuff there. You had those photographs there. Personal documents, all of that. So this is what a pre-evacuation order. This is not a call to action that you have to go. There's been some confusion about that. There shouldn't be. This is it. You're just waiting on word at this point. You have that bag and that stuff ready to go. That's what that means. So, as of right now, what's the wind situation? Right now, things have calmed down. Deadwood, Custer, just seeing some variable winds, a little bit of a northwesterly wind in Rapid City. Here's the kick I'm talking about. See Campbell County, you got Gillette, 20 to 25 mile per hour winds out of the west-northwest. Where's that coming from? You got a front that's moving across northeastern Wyoming from west to east. This is moving into the Black Hills probably in the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so. That's why I'm still awake. I'm waiting for this to come through, because if we can have this come through and we hold it, things only get better from there. Relative humidity improves, temperatures improve, everything improves. Little bit on the breezy side, but if you got nice relative humidity, you can overcome a lot of that. So relative humidity has been slowly rising through the evening. Still, 25%, not great at almost 10 o'clock at night, 26% in Custer, 37% in Gillette. But look at Sheridan. It's only gone up 70% relative humidity. So that's what's coming our direction. We're going to have better moisture content as we go through the evening into early tomorrow morning. So tomorrow, few isolated thunderstorms is also on the table here. We could even see some small hail out of some of those thunderstorms, but water. We could actually see water out of some of these showers, unlike today, which were not helpful, and gusty winds and maybe a lightning bolt here and there. These will actually provide a little something for us. So here's what the winds are looking like as we move forward here. So going into about midnight, see this kind of half crescent of winds, this front moving through. That'll temporarily push gusts perhaps into the 30, maybe even 35 mile per hour range in some of these saddles and these valleys coming through the Black Hills. Once that moves through, sometime about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, fully gets through, you start having some general northerly, northwesterly winds with not a lot of deviation to it. That's helpful. If you know where your winds are coming from for a long period of time, that's helpful. You don't want winds moving all over the place. That makes planning difficult. So as you get to Wednesday afternoon, those winds for the most part stay out of the north. Maybe a little bit of variability in the higher elevations of the Black Hills, but again, since the relative humidity is going to be better, it's going to be a different story altogether. And by the time you get to Thursday, still looking at mostly variable northerly winds there. Relative humidity, this has been the stickler the last couple of days, the not friendly part of this. Once you get to early Wednesday morning, we're flush with moisture here, 40% in Rapid City. This is going into Wednesday evening, 60% in Hill City. Looking very nice, a little bit on the drier side, maybe a little bit drier than I'd like up in Buffalo and Lemon, but it's a lot better than it's been. Another kind of rush of moisture there for Wednesday night going into Thursday. And by Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, still not excellent, but way better than what we've been seeing over the last couple of days. Overnight temperatures sticking in those 70s and 80s. It'll be 83 degrees tomorrow morning out in the Badlands. It's going to be warm overnight. As you get to the higher elevations, a little bit more of those 60s up there. And then by 8 p.m. Wednesday, through the day Wednesday, we may struggle to get to 80 degrees in most locations tomorrow. So temperatures way better as well. So this is all good news. Early Thursday, looking at those 50s and 60s, continuing through Thursday afternoon. So here's the future cast. So we get some showers, maybe some pop-up showers early tomorrow morning. Some of those may bring some moisture relief. I'd rather keep them away until Wednesday afternoon. We have a little bit more moisture and a little bit more reward. Some actual showers coming through the area. And some of those, again, may even have some pea-sized hail with some of those. But if you're getting the water from it, you're not too concerned about it. So that's going into Wednesday evening. Now, the long range here, well above normal temperatures. It's going to be on the warmer side, unfortunately, going into the mid-September. So we're going to stay vigilant here. So this is stage one. You know, this is just one fire that we're looking at. We'll have to stay vigilant as we go through the next couple of weeks. It's also going to be on the drier side. And I'm going to see if there's any questions. Chris, how are we doing on time? About 2 minutes? Okay. I got room for just a couple questions here then. And I actually have one person asking, if things are going so well, how come I still see fire and flames? Well, there's some areas, there's indirect attack and direct attack. So if you have indirect attack, that means you're not necessarily setting your fire line right up against the fire. You have a predetermined position that you're going to fortify this area, and you're basically going to let this vegetation kind of burn out a little bit. Gives you a little bit of time as it rolls through, and you're setting up that position, a strong point. So just because things are burning doesn't necessarily mean that the fire's out of control or things are going bad. It's just a different strategy for attacking this fire. When you have lots of ridges and valleys like this particular fire, big deal. Indirect attack and air attack, big deal. That's been helpful. You've seen a lot of that today. So I think what we can do is, I'll start moseying on over, because we have with us Mayor Jason Salamun, and we have Dustin with Pennington County Emergency Management, Dustin Willett. And we are so glad that you are here. We appreciate your time. It's been a long day for both of you, but we're glad you're here because there are a lot of questions that even I had as we were kind of getting through this from start to finish. And Dustin, I actually want to start with you. A lot of the comments that I got as soon as I started some lives and whatnot, and people said, well, my neighbor says that it's a full evacuation and that we got to get out right now. And we'll say, how am I supposed to believe? Where do I go? How, am I supposed to believe this person? Where do I start with that kind of stuff, especially at the beginning of these types of events?
Fantastic question. There's always a little bit of chaos when a large event kicks off. In terms of definitive sources, hopefully people have discerned who they're going to go to beforehand. People typically build a trust and a rapport with certain outlets. Government organizations are a pretty solid bet if you stick with city feeds, county feeds, news organizations. In this particular case, the Forest Service, South Dakota Wildland Fire, who is running the fire. Those types of outlets are always, I'll stick with that, are always going to be a more solid source of information than random social media feeds, random gossip. The good side of it is if people are talking, at least there is awareness. So
for sure.
I'm grateful that people are aware that something's happening and talking about it. The hope is that they seek out trusted sources in their decision-making process.
And from where we sit tonight, your outlook as we move forward here, has there been kind of positive feedback, or has there been any trouble here or there, or is there a forecast, if you will, as we move forward here?
So I think your previous segment nailed it. One, the Herculean effort of some incredible firefighting forces on the ground and in the air. Today was a nail biter. It really was. Very, very, very dry, hot conditions, some wind. Fire is a force of nature, and sometimes we get put in our place. And so just an incredible Herculean effort by our firefighters to keep us safe. And as is often the case with large wildland fires, the weather tells the story. And I think you also said in your segment, we're not out of the woods, so to speak. This is still a fire that is not contained, and depending on what the weather does, obviously all day long they were strengthening the perimeter, hoping that it will, and I guess more than hope, but the plan is for it to withstand the front as it moves through. So when the front moves through, obviously, as you said, those control lines, all that retardant that was laid down from the tankers during the day, those control lines will be tested as those winds gust through as that front passes, and so. Tomorrow morning, we should have a clearer picture of where we stand. Not out of the woods, but I think people can sleep easy tonight, knowing that there were men and women out on that fire line that kept them safe. And knowing that there's the full force of alert and warning should something unforeseen happen.
Sure.
But this is why I collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
I like to refer to emergency management as the government-sanctioned prepper
Yeah,
office.
sure, okay.
But I'm going to sleep easy tonight because
Okay.
of the work that the men and women out on the fire line did today. So.
Yeah, so what it seems like is, so to speak, they planted their flag and they're like, this is where we're going to hold this here tonight. This is what we're going to do. They made the preparation all day today. Here's the lines that we're going to hold tonight.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mayor Salamun, a busy day for you as well.
absolutely.
So I had a couple of questions that came in as far as the urban environment is considered. Now, we had a little bit of a scare with the Schroeder fire. We had, a little bit of a neighborhood up there in the Schroeder neighborhood where it came so quickly, it came through, and I think a lot of people were a little taken aback by how quickly this moved through. Even though it's not wooded, it's not woodland, you have separation between houses and whatnot. You're thinking, oh, well, these fire breaks will work. And some of those, at least a few of those structures did burn as that went through. And there was concerns with this particular fire. Well, now we're looking at another potential urban environment. Are there protocols in place? Does the Rapid City Fire Department have protocols in place in case something like that were to try and get into one of these neighborhoods?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, a big shout out to you for your efforts during this whole thing.
Thank you.
We've noted your expertise, and you're doing the community a great service with your analysis. So yeah, one thing that we do, not just on the reactive side of it, the proactive side, we have wildfire mitigation efforts. So we actually literally have people on our staff in the fire department that will help you, especially in the wooded areas, to say, hey, cut down this tree or cut this back. They'll come in and they'll do an analysis to help you determine, what kind of steps you can take within your own property to help mitigate the risk. You can never eliminate a risk, but to help mitigate the risk and help it from transferring. And that's always a big thing. This fire in particular, we're paying a lot of attention because which direction of that wind shift was really going to, impact us to thousands of families and folks or less. And so I think those proactive efforts play a big part. And even at the end of this, when we get on the other side of it, it's a good reminder that if you live in a wooded area especially, to contact the fire department. They will actually help you work on a mitigation plan so that you can help relieve that pressure in the future. Might require some sweat labor and all of that, a little bit of investment, but it's good to know, especially those areas like if you live in Chapel Valley with one point of access in and out, or you're up in Carriage Hills, and we know this area with Countryside and High Point Ranch and Red Rocks area and all of that, those are big, but those are important areas. I'd also put Wildwood and just anywhere in that Southwest. There's a lot of good development there, a lot of investment out there, and a lot of folks with families. So I understand that there's a lot of concerns, and we've been fielding that all day. Obviously, folks have been very concerned. Can you get us some information? And we've been doing our best to make sure that folks are equipped with what they need to know.
Yeah, so there's also you only updated, you updated 3 hours ago and it still says 50 acres. There's got to be an update with this. How come there's not more updates with this fire? How come it's not every 2 hours, or how come it's not every, why not every hour? Is there a process that goes through here? Is there something, and maybe that's more of a question for Dustin, as far as the releases that come through, is there a way that's determined, or do we wait until all information is taken into account? How's that process work?
So a lot of firefighting is based off of decades and even centuries of military tactics. So there's kind of a symbiosis between those two disciplines. And I say that because the teams that manage more complex fires and the terrain, the weather, and the urban interface impact of this fire certainly make this a more complex incident than what we normally see. The teams that come in to manage these talk about a battle rhythm. So you fall into, we have a certain planning cycle that we fall into where things happen at the same time every day. It's a planning rhythm, it's a battle rhythm. And it takes an operational period or two. It takes a little bit of time to establish that. So when we're in this initial attack, things are moving. It's a very dynamic environment. Things are moving very fast. It is hard to settle into that battle rhythm. And really, you're so busy establishing that rhythm and fighting the fire that the information is there. But as important as getting information to the public is, it's more important to be fighting the fire. And so it can take just a little bit of time to establish that rhythm. And I think starting tomorrow, you'll see much more regular updates from that team that's managing.
Communication lines are put up, also, and so on forth. Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. So as far as, oh, thank you. I was given my laptop. It's right here now, so I can pull up stuff if I need to. I was actually really impressed with the cooperation between the departments. You guys talk about it. I guess people hear it like, oh yeah, cooperation. Okay, yeah, that's. I don't think it's taken into account. I think we take it as a privilege. You know, it's a privilege of ours that we have such cooperation between county, city, federal, and all those entities working together. How does that contribute to knocking down a fire of this scale, at least from the city standpoint?
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's communication is vital to anything. And you know, one of the things we've talked about today with communication is if you have a void of communication, someone's going to fill that void. We want to make sure that if you're communicating, that we're communicating the right things. That means also with each other. And you're absolutely right. Obviously, the state of South Dakota has come in big on this. We've had assistance from regional partners coming in. You've seen all these planes and everything coming through. That's a lot of mutual aid that's happening. The county and the city, we have a great relationship. In fact, the city pays for half of his salary, so I get half of them. But the reason that's important is you don't wait until something happens to start planning. These are plans that are already in place so that when something happens, you go and execute that plan. And we all have a part to play. You know, as mayor, I have a part to play as it affects the city of Rapid City. Dustin, you know, he's the one making those plans. I do lean heavy on him. He's the one who's making sure that happens. Now you have to make sure that all the jurisdictional stuff works itself out. Who's the point on a project or on a event like this? I think that's important. Today, we really needed to make sure we showed everybody, hey, here's multiple jurisdictions. We're going to communicate with you today. Yes, there's going to be more official stuff coming out, you know, tomorrow, but people had questions today, and today was precarious. We had people concerned. You know, we talked about the 5 Ps. We need to educate people to say, this is an evacuation warning, not an order, but what that means is you prepare right now. You have time to prepare. Where are your people? Where are your pets? Where's your prescriptions, your personal needs, your personal, you know, effects, like you talked about the photographs and things like that. All of those things come into play when you're talking about making preparations, and then where do you go and what do you do, and are you in touch with people, and do you have loved ones that live in the vicinity that you need to check on? I wanted to make sure today that we were doing that. It would just crush me that something came along and we could have communicated some efforts that might have saved lives, helped people prepare in case of the worst. Now, obviously, we're hoping for the best. We're optimistic, but we say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and that's going to be our attitude. And today, that was a real big message for us to get out. We appreciate everybody's effort to help make that happen. And it's coming from multiple sources, but you're hearing a lot of the same thing. And so that's important because it takes a long, you know, people have to hear things multiple times to start to get it. And so I think this is a reminder to everybody. What is your emergency plan? Do you have a go pack? If something were to happen, a fire started in your home or, you know, some other major event, do you have preparations in place? I think that's always critical for folks. Pennington County has a great website as a starting point to say, hey, here's some basic preparations, emergency kits, things like that you can put together. That will help buy you time, potentially save lives, and you know, really make sure that we're responding and looking out for our community as a whole.
And what I don't want to do is like throw hypotheticals at you. What if this happened? Well, what if this happened? And I think we have about 2 minutes, but I wanted to kind of throw a curveball here a little bit. So there was never any pre-evacuation, at least right now, there's not any pre-evacuation notices for Colonial Pine Hills and whatnot, but you're talking about a subdivision that has 2,500, maybe 3,500 people, or you know, you have a lot of homes in that area, and you have 2 ways in and out of these jurisdictions. So if something, if that were to advance, I mean, is there a plan in place for something like that?
Great question, and obviously that's where we get our law enforcement involved. And what happens is obviously you have an air war and a ground war. The air war is broadcasting, just like people are listening to here, social media and traditional media, but also the ground war. You're going to have people knocking on doors, physically handing them slips of paper says you got to go. They will physically go through those areas to make sure that happens. Maybe somebody's not home or they're sleeping, and they're going to do everything they can, but it's going to take Herculean effort, as he said, to make that happen. But you have law enforcement there that will assist as well with traffic flow to make sure that people are getting out of something in an orderly way. That's where we see road closures. We've seen some of that today to make sure we have ease of access for our first responders. I'm a little concerned about Sheridan Lake Road. We have construction on Sheridan Lake Road.
Yeah.
We would obviously try to divert more of that to Moon Meadows. Those sorts of things, that's already discussed. So if that were to happen and it triggers, you talk about an army that comes in to help with that response. Of course, Dustin and his team are a big part of that, and we need everybody's help, to make that happen. So, but I would say, right now, I'd say you can go to sleep peacefully. If somebody pounds on your door, your phone rings, or you have alerts going off on your phone, things like that, that'll be time to take action.
We know you both have had a really busy day today. We really appreciate your time for coming in. We're going to be hammering this through the 10 o'clock hour. We have our show coming up. Dustin Whitten and Mayor Jason Salamun, thank you so much for your time and for your efforts and your energy on this.
Thank you as well.
Thank you as well. Yep.
All right, so we have our 10 o'clock show coming up. We're going to be recapping weather, news, and all of that coming up here on News Center 1. What we're likely going to be also doing is looking at camera 1 here. We're going to be going through and recapping what's gone on today and what is likely going to transpire tomorrow with the weather, because right now the weather is a lot at play, is the thing that's at play. We have all these different places that are kind of trenched in. They've done the work, now they're just waiting for this weather to get through, so we're going to be talking about that coming up here.
This has been a News Center 1 special report.